If you get excited about cheese forts, or maybe just cheese forts, then this one just might be for you. Welcome to another virtual Star City site tour. Today we're going to do a virtual tour of one of northern Italy's most famous cities, Parma. Yes, that's Parma for Parmesan cheese, and Prosciutto di Parma is in fact an ancient star city or Starfort metropolis. Let's hit the wiki. From the wiki, it tells us that Parma was already built up either prior or during the Bronze Age, which mainstream scientists date between 3300 and 1200 BC. Theorized first to be built up by a Terramare culture, an old word used for a technologically built up complex of black earth. The wiki gives a long account of these people, but ultimately concludes that they were most evidently the Etruscans, who were known to build most of, if not all of, ancient Rome, and who were the original inhabitants of what we know today as the people of the Italian peninsula. They say Rome wasn't built in a day. That's because Rome was probably already there prior to the cultivation of the Roman people. They pretty much inherited it. After the Etruscans, Parma was raided and conquered by pretty much every national group in the area, including the Romans. The Germanic people at one point had a strong Jewish population. In the Middle Ages, it was under Frankish rule, then Milanese, then the French under the Napoleon, and then back to Italian rule at the end of the 19th century, annexed to the Kingdom of Italy. And in this period, development and peace began. During the Second World War, the town was heavily bombed, but its inhabitants, lovers of culture, reconstructed the city and all her important architectural buildings. Today, it is a quiet corner of Italy where the wonderful smell of ham wafts through the air and Parmesan cheese is venerated. Here we go. This is Parma. So as you can see, there's a center, and all the bastions have been removed in present day, but we can still see the footprint, as well as the satellite star outside of the city wall. So let's drop in here and take a peek at what Parma has to offer today. Let's start right in the center on the middle bridge. We can see the river is pretty dried up, some graffiti on the lower parts of the wall. When the city was capital of the independent Duchy of Parma, the Italian poet Alitio Bertolucci wrote, "As a capital city, it had to have a river. As a little capital, it received a stream, which is often dry." Now, when we drop into here, this section over here, this is where the two cathedrals now are, and we get a quick look inside one of the cathedrals. There was one giant, or there used to be one giant temple in this area, and now you can see two cathedrals instead of one giant temple. So now there's two domes, one right there, the copper dome, and the other one right there next to that tower. We're going to drop in here, get a look at that. Somebody took this picture at night. Cool little scene. Nope. Look at it. Two people kissing. Caught on Google forever. See if we can find one in the daytime. There we go. I got a better look. Back out of here. Over here, let's take a look at the other cathedral too. Wow. It's truly amazing. Is there an organ down there? There's always an organ in a cathedral. You can really get up in here. Oh wow. For those that know what shape this is and what this is possibly doing to the water, probably really healthy. That's why it's called holy water in a well. So you hope you feel well. Anyway, let's move on. And you'll see that on the old maps, the original layout had one temple. Now we come drop into the satellite star. This is the entrance to it, and you can see how huge these walls are. Like, the amount of bricks is just mind-blowing to me. You gotta keep in mind that this used to be like a moat. There used to be water in between there, in between the bastions. Now today it's just a park. You can walk around. They have fairs in the center. You could see currently going on right now in July of 2024. This picture is from an earlier time, but you can see on the top left, when we get back to the main screen, you could change the time. Right there in the top left, you can change the dates of which the picture was taken, the overhead picture. When you drop down though, these pictures here are more taken by individuals or the Google car camera. So they got basketball courts, and they got a dog park, which I believe I'm going to drop into here now. On this side is, this whole bastion corner is a dog park. Yeah. So you can have your dogs run around there and poop. On history. And as you zoom out, we're going to drop now down into the garden area. Now this garden area is very confusing because in old maps it's sectioned off in its own bastion, and there used to be a gigantic castle which is now empty. It's demolished, and now you can see the footprint here in this empty section is now since been replaced with this large building. But you can see in older maps that there used to be a gigantic castle in this spot, and you can still see the footprint of it. The bridge is also different too, because the bridge used to come right into the second bastion, but then other pictures show the bridge then outside the bastion. So this is kind of interesting area right here. This is another entrance into the park. Bit unorthodox. See if we can get a better look. Right, kind of like at the entrance of that area. Looks like a really nice, peaceful town. Pop back out. And let's hit this empty square area here. Just do a little look around. Looks like some buildings mesh into other buildings, and you can just tell there's just been a lot of different influence throughout the centuries. Still really beautiful. I collected a couple of maps here so we can look at what it looks like back then, now that we've seen what it looks like now. This one, starting off in the 13th century, so the 1200s, we can see that they have an interior star, and that gigantic castle where I said they demolished it, there it is right there. There's the gardens, but we can see it's separated with a moat and its own separate star within the star. Also, you can see they have the one single temple here and the tower. Another thing I also noticed as well, and I may mention it earlier, is that the bridge comes into the satellite star here in this image. Now, this one, which claims to be also from the 13th century, shows the interior star, but now it's kind of dredged out and all the land is now exposed. There's no water, and the bridge is actually not connecting into the actual star. So that's interesting. Here again we see one temple and a tower. As we move over to the 14th century, or the 15th century and the 1400s, we can see that there is no star depicted here, but there is a moat depicted around the gigantic castle at the top. A slight garden over here. This one, as we move into the 16th century, 1500s, one gigantic temple, and we can't see any other castle or satellite or garden in this one. We do, however, see the other castles out in the distance, which I did mark on Google Earth, but we didn't really touch on those too much. But there are other smaller satellites outside of the main city. As we get to the 1800s, we can see that there is now a full garden in place, no castle at all. You can see the same thing here, no temple in place. And we can start to see now two cathedrals instead of one giant temple here. Two cathedrals and the tower. No big temple. Two cathedrals and a tower, no big temple. And this one is from 1840, again a little clearer. By the time we get to the 1900s though, they've removed all the bastions. So now there's no more points or outer wall. It is now replaced with streets and everything's been leveled. We're back over to the Google Earth. Free to look around the city on your own time. Hopefully you enjoyed looking around with me today. The last thing we're going to do is just to file it. Put it into the Italy file. There we go. So now I added that link in there, so every time I come back to this area, I could just click this and have this here to match up. So that's pretty much it. That's Parma. That is Parma, Italy. In the northern area of Parma. Thank you for spending some time with me. Hopefully you learn. Oh, wow. Can you guys see that? I was just about to close out and I just noticed that. Is that all of these areas connect through this road. can see it from Plancia, Italy, which there's a Starfort there, and all the way down this line. You can see it to Fidenza, Parole, right down into Parma. And then Parma breaks off up here. Parma breaks off here. Here. This is really a center city. Here's another one. There's so many. Oh man. They're just all stars. Stars and constellations. That's why we call them Starforts. Not just because the geometric nature of them, but how they're kind of situated on the earth. Looks like how they're situated in the sky. So imagine all of these cities are all star cities. A lot of them haven't even been marked yet. Let's go to one we haven't even marked yet. Yeah, I bet there's like a little one right here. Boom, boom, there's the plug hole. Boom, boom, there's a star right there. A little metropolis. There's the river. The thing about Starforts, you always find them right next to a river because they had to have water access in these cities. That's another thing you find out is they're really beautiful, but they're also essential. They're really truly like the essential blocks of building a city, building civilization. Wow, look at this one. It's like a pentagon star. So, we'll dive into all these eventually. I'm glad you spent some time with me today. Make sure you like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Take it easy.